and Ches Amud Aleph, Esvei. So before this, there was a machlokes between Rav Yosef and Rava regarding a ditch in the ground, if it's considered a Rishus Harabim or not, because it's difficult to use. Rava said, no, it's difficult to use. He calls it Tashmish al Yedei Chak, uncomfortable, so that's not considered a Rishus Harabim. And Rabbi Yosef said, no, it's fine. Now, this was based on if someone put something on a pillar, on a post that was in Rosh Hashanah that was 9 Tvachim high. So we said that was considered a Rosh Hashanah. Now the question was, what about 9 Tvachim deep? So that's a machlokes. So we had one question where Rav Ada bar Masna asked Rava. The question right before this was this Esvei. He says he has a basket in Rosh Hashanah, 10 Tvachim high and wide, 4 Tvachim. You can't carry it. You can't use it. And then it concludes with V'chein beguma. So. It says if it's 10 Tvachim, then you can't use it, but if it's 9 Tvachim, then you can. It says V'chein beguma. The Gemara assumes that it says 9 Tvachim, you can use it. That means that if you can use it, it's considered Rosh Hashanah. And according to Rava, Rava says that it's not a Rosh Hashanah, so it's a kasha on Rava. The Gemara answers that no, we're only talking about the first part. If it's over 10 Tvachim or 10 Tvachim deep, then that would be a problem. But the second part is not being discussed by V'chein beguma, which means if it's only 9 Tvachim. Okay, now the Gemara says Esvei. On top of Ches Amud Beis, Niskaven l'shbeis b'Rosh Hashanah. If someone is walking out of the Tchum 2,000 Amos, and Erev Shabbos, he wants to go further than that. So what he does is he's going to put an Erev Tchumen. That's where he can place food out within 2,000 Amos, and that's considered his location when Shabbos comes in. So he wants his Erev, he wants his location to be in Rosh Hashanah, but he doesn't put it in Rosh Hashanah. He puts it into a pit. So if it's L'mayla miyud tvachim, L'mayla over here is downwards, so it's weird. L'mayla means that it's not more than 10 tvachim deep. It means it's less than 10 tvachim deep. Then Eruv Erev, that's considered the Rosh Hashanah, and that's okay. L'mata miyud tvachim, but if he puts it lower than yud tvachim, it means deeper than yud tvachim, ein Eruv Erev, then it's not a good Erev. So the Gemara says, hey chidami. What are we talking about? Ilay mebar dispei asara ulamayla didaloi va'isvei ulamata ditatoi va'isvei. The pit, how big is the pit itself? So if the pit is more than 10 Tvachim, that means we're dealing with the Rishus HaYachid. So there's a problem here because you can't put an Erev in a location where you're not going to be able to eat it. So if the pit itself is 10 Tvachim deep, I don't care where he puts it in the pit, or the pit becomes a Rishus of a Yachid, and then you can't get it out if you intend to stay in the Rishus Harabim. You don't have access to it. So the Gemara answers, one second before the answers. Mali lamala mala mata. What's the difference if it's above? Let me go through the words again. Let me go back. Hechidam in the third line. If the pit itself is more than 10, I'm sorry, this be'asara. The pit is 10 tvachim. Ulamila. What does it mean in the brisa that he put it above? That means didaloi va'oisvei, that he let it hang somewhere and he placed it. Ulamata, what does it mean below? The tatoi va'oisvei, that he put it down on the bottom of the pit and he placed it. The tough is shin, like yashav. Mali l'mayla, mali l'mata. What is the difference if he puts it above or below? Who b'makam echad ve'eruv b'makam acher? Who he's in one place and his eruv is in another place, because he's in Rishus Harabim. His eruv is Rishus Hayachid because it's 10 tefachim deep. Elalav bebar the less be'asara. We're talking about a pit that itself doesn't have 10 tefachim. That's if it's l'mayla me'asara. Yeah, that means that l'mayla means less than. Uktane, and it's telling us that eruv eruv. Okay, very interesting. That means that 9 tefachim deep is considered Rishus Harabim. It's a kasha and Rava. Rava says tashmish al yidei adchak is not considered a usage. Alma tashmish al yidei adchak shmei tashmish. You see that it is a good usage. So the Gemara says like this. Rava answered this in 2 types of ways. Zimnin mishani le huve ruve bekarmelis. Sometimes Rava answered it that he and his eruv are in a karmelis. We had an answer like this once before in the Gemara, but that means he is in like a field, and his eruv is in the bar. And neither of them are Rishus Harabim. They're both a karmelis. Bika would be a karmelis. But my karla Rishus Harabim. So why do you say he wanted to stay in Rishus Harabim? Because it's not a Rishus Hayachid. Okay, usually we do that though when we're contrasting it to something else. Okay, here we don't see the whole brisa, so we don't really know what we're contrasting it to be able to say that. Okay, next answer is v'zimnim mishani lei, but sometimes Rava would answer this question. Hu b'Rishus Harabim ve'eruv bekarmelis. No, you're right. He's in Rishus Harabim and his eruv is considered a different rishus. What rishus is it? It's a karmelis. In other words, it's not a Rishus Harabim. For Rebbe here, and this is the opinion of Rebbe, Damar Kol Davar Shemisham Shvus, like Gozral of Bein HaShemashayis. Very interesting. He needs to access it at the moment Shabbos comes in. When Shabbos comes in, it's Bein HaShemashas. So if he has access to it, Bein HaShemashas, then that's considered an eruv, because that's when his shvisa, where his location for Shabbos takes place. If that's the case, so Bein HaShemashas, he's able to access the eruv. So that's why it's going to be a good eruv. V'loi tema, Rava goes on to say, don't say that I'm just pushing you away with like cheap answers. Eladavka kaminalach. No, this is very serious. This is exactly what's happening. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. Imayurakak mayim. Let's say there was a swamp. So, the professor's not here, right? No. Okay. So if there's a swamp, or Rishus Harabim ma'alachas, but I know the Gemara is going to be medayek on that term ma'alachas in a moment. If there's a swamp and the public, the throughway, the street is going through the swamp. Hazerik l'seicha dalet amas chayev. If someone throws 4 amas in this area, he's chayev. Why? 4 amas is you're not allowed to carry it to Rishus Harabim. Now the Gemara says, "V'kamahu rakak mayim." How deep is the rakak? This swamp, pachas miyad tvachim. It's less than 10 tvachim. Now the Gemara, this is a Mishnah. The Mishnah repeats itself. It says, "Rakak mayim sher Rishus Harabim malachas by," and a swamp that the public goes through. Hazarik l'seicha dalet amas chayev. If you throw 4 cubits in that area, that's considered carrying. Bishleim rakak trezimnei. The Gemara explains this Mishnah. I understand why you repeated yourself and you said that there's a swamp that a public is going through, and there's a swamp that the public. I get it. Why? Because chad bi ma'isa chama v'chad bi ma'isa geshamim. There's 2 seasons. There's the summer and the winter. But tzricha, it's necessary to tell me both seasons why that you're going to be chayiv. Diashmin ma'isa chama. If it would only tell me the summer, then I would say, why is it a Rishus Harabim in the summer? Davidi inshi l'krei nafshayu. Because people cool off in the summers. Everyone uses the swamp. They go into the water, they take a swamp walk. But in the winter, I'd say that no one's using it in the winter, and therefore it's not a Rosh Hashanah. Throwing there won't be chayiv. If you'd only say in the winter, I would have thought, I give the matif, because the person is dirty anyway. Mikri v'nachas, he'll go into it. But in summer, when his clothing is clean, there's no mud, so he would never go into the swamp. So tzrichet has to say both, because there's a reason for him to go in both seasons. Ella, hiluch trezim nilamali. The question is, why did it have to tell me each time, or shusarabim ma'alechas by? We could have just said, Rekak Mayim Shebeshusarabim. Why does it have to tell me that they're going through it? That the public is walking through it? So the answer to that is that it's trying to say, what the Gemara is going to say, is that there's a difference between going through it and usage. So, walking through it when it's difficult is still considered Rishus Harabim. But Tashmish al Yedei Adchak, if they weren't actually walking through it, they were just using it. So Lo Shmei Tashmish, that's not considered usage. So Rav is proving from this the fact that the Gemara needs to tell me specifically that they're walking through it. That tells me only walking through it would make it Rishus Harabim. So sort of like that pit. You know, you don't walk through the pit, you just use the pit. So someone can't get on. Is that Yitzi, you want to help him? Eliezer, you got it? Okay. So this is Rava saying that usage and that's uncomfortable is not considered usage. Okay, this Gemara is a very interesting Gemara. It's only 2 lines, but it's very interesting. I remember I was learning in Australia, and there was a Rav over there, and he says, runs in, anyone remember where the Gemara is that says, it tells us the following case, and then the Bachram found it for him. Okay, Amar Rav Yehuda, this Gemara here. Rav Yehuda says, Hayzir Zedekani, there's a bundle of reeds. Rama v'zakfe, Rama v'zakfe. You lift it up and you let it fall. You lift it up and you let it fall. So it'd be like, let's see, you see like this, you let it fall, and then you turn it over and you let it fall. So it's like somersaults, but with a bundle of reeds, and you're able to carry like that. You're not chayav until you actually lift it up, until you remove it. It's a very interesting piece.
So.
Sorry?
Oh, we're on.
No, we're good. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. So again, the Daf Yomi is not a halacha share, but this is an interesting piece. Okay. Now the Gemara goes back to discuss more pieces from the Brisa that we quoted on Daf Vav. Goes like this: Amar Mar. Adam Aymed ala skufa v'neitel mi balabayas. A person can stand on the threshold and take from the threshold, is the entranceway to the house, the doorstep. Take from the balabayas, v'neitel and give to the balabayas. Neitel miani, could take from the poor man, v'neitel and give to the poor man. That means he could take from inside and put it in. He could take from outside and put it out. The Gemara now, that's the quote. The Gemara says, Hayaskufa mai. What is going on with this doorstep? What is the doorstep itself? Ilay maskufa Rishus Harabim. You want to say, is the doorstep considered Rishus Harabim? The Neitlum Balabayas. How could he take from the homeowner? Hamapik Rishus Yachd Rishus Harabim. He's taking from Rishus Yachid into a public domain. He's outside. Ela skufas Rishus Yachid. There's a skufa. I have a skufas. It's considered a Rishus Yachid, which means it's inside the house. The problem is, Neitel Min Ani takes from the poor man. Hakam Ayel Rishus Harabim Rishus Yachid. He's taking from the public to the private. He's a Rishus Yachid. The Gemara answers, Ela skufa karmelas. It's this middle sort of domain. And Neitan v'Neisen, lechatchila. The Gemara is going to ask it. Neitel v'neisen lechatchila. Seif yisurim yeyisa. So, okay, biblically, a Carmelis could be a Makam P'tur, but midirabanan, there's a prohibition. You can't take from a Carmelis into a Rosh Hashanah or into a Rosh Hashanah. So why are you telling me that lechatchila you're allowed to do this? It's rabbinically prohibited. The Gemara answers, "Alaskufa makam p'tur ba'almahu." It's just a regular the threshold is a makam p'tur. Why? Going the less beidalad al dalad. You don't have an actual rishus there. In order for it to be considered a rishus, even a Carmelis, it needs to have four by four tvachim. V'chiha d'chiyasa Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is similar to what Rav Dimi says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Makam shem beidalad al dalad tvachim. An area that doesn't have 4 by 4 tvachim, mutal v'nei Rosh Hashanah or v'nei Rosh Hashanah lekatif alav. The b'nei Rosh Hashanah and the b'nei Rosh Hashanah, the people from a public domain and from a private domain are allowed to adjust packages on their shoulders. You can put it down over there on this post, let's say, because it doesn't have 4 by 4. As long as they don't switch with the Rosh Hashanah and the Rosh Hashanah, they don't use it as a way of like a free pass to get into to exchange domains. Okay, so we've learned that less than 4 by 4 tvachim is a makam p'tur. It's not considered a significant rishus. Amar Mar, the master taught, "V'vad sh'layitum li balabayas v'noisen la'ani." You can't exchange from the balabayas and give to the ani. V'noisen or me'ani v'noisen la balabayas, or the other way. Yitzi, you want to help him, Eliezer? He says he can't hear. You got it? Okay. So you can't use this as as a zone, a free zone. Eliezer, you can hear? You can't hear? Check your. Yitzi, tell him to check his own. Text him to check on his own computer the sound. Oh, you hear me? Okay. Okay, we'll get you. I don't know sign language. So you're not supposed to use this zone to take from the balabayas, take from the homeowner, and to put it outside, or the opposite. You can't do that. But if you did, you're pater. Now the Gemara is going to question. We're good? Okay. Let's say that this is a question on Rava. The Gemara makes a comparison here. We'll see. Okay. Rava says that if someone carries in a Rosh Hashanah 4 cubits, and what he does is he lifts it over his head, so it's over 10 tfachim. I can't see. Okay, so he lifts it over 10 tfachim. So he's actually carrying in an area that's pater. So okay, he's carrying in an area that's pater, but nevertheless he's chayiv. So 1 second, when he takes from Rosh Hashanah and he puts it into Rosh Hashanah, because he's in this zone that's like a free zone, he's on the makam p'tur, he's on the skufa. We said that he's pater. Why is he pater? If someone carries and he puts it into the free zone above his head in Rosh Hashanah, and then he puts it down over there, he's chayiv. The Gemara answers hasam leinach hachanach. The reason why over here he's pater is because he didn't put it down in the free zone. But over there he put it down. Now what does it mean he put it down? I'm sorry, the opposite. Over here, he put it down. The balabayas that passed to the person on the yaskufa, that then it passes it out because it stops in the free zone. So that's considered, that's why it would be pater. But if you just be walking straight and carrying it over your head and putting it down, it's not considered like it's resting in the makam p'tur. So that would leave us with an akira and a rishus harabim and a hanacha four amos away, which that's why it's chayav. Okay, the next Gemara has a slight complication, which I couldn't figure out the first part, and hopefully someone there has an explanation. Okay, the first part is just a quote. Acherim Maimrim, there are others that say, Askufa mishamesha shtei rishuyos. Others, we said, is Reb Meir, and he says that it's not a free zone, the threshold on the door. It's either a rishus hayachid or a rishus harabim, depending on if the door is open. Bisman shapesach pasuach, if the door is open, then kilifnim, then it's considered that it's inside the house. But pesach nol, if the door's closed, then it's kilachutz. Then you're outside. You know, like the door's shut on his face, so he's considered on the outside. The Gemara asks, 1 second, he doesn't have a lechi that's a post that's at the end of the threshold. The Gemara is going back to the first part of this. If the door is open, he's considered inside. How could he be considered inside? He doesn't have a post that's outside his domain that's making him considered inside. So Va'amar Rav Chama Bar Guria Rav Chama Bar Guria says in the name of Rav, Teicha Pesach Tzarech Lechi Acher Lahatire. If you want to use the doorway itself, you need a post on the outside of the doorway. So in other words, the thickness of the doorway itself would need a post on the outside to make you considered on the inside. So how could we say that if the doorway is open, he's considered like inside the house? He's not inside the house. He's outside the house. There's no post there. So v'chitema, if you're going to say the less bei daled al daled, that he's in an area that doesn't have 4x4 tvachim. That doesn't help. It doesn't help if your threshold is under 4x4 cubits, and you're going to think that that's considered like not enough of a reshus. It's going to be considered in the house. It's not true. If you're outside the lechi is the post that's the demarcation that marks the reshus, the end of the reshus hayachid. If that's the case, so if you're outside that lechi, then even if it's less under 4x4, you can't carry there. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav. Rav Yehuda Marav says, Hacha baskufas mavi yaskinan. Okay, this, if anyone has any commentaries, we're dealing with a mavi. You know, as we were talking the whole time, that's probably the entrance to a house. We're dealing with a mavi. A mavi is an alleyway, so there's 2 walls on either side, and chetzav makara v'chetzav sheina makara. Part of it has a roof and part doesn't. Now, I think part of it means part of the entranceway here, and we're not dealing with a lechi. We're dealing with a kaira, a beam that goes across. Okay, the way that a mavoi, an alleyway, is permissible to carry on Shabbos, you see an alleyway is either 2 walls or 3 walls. Here we're dealing with a mavi that has 3 walls. It's an alleyway that's surrounded, only the 4th wall is open. So min ha-Torah to reshus hayachid, it's considered a private domain. However, you need to have some sort of mark at the end of the mavi to let you know that you shouldn't continue on to the public domain. There's 2 possible reasons why you need that. Whatever the case is, that mark, that sign that you have that you're at the end of the mavi, you have 2 ways of doing that. You could either put up a post that would be a straight pole at the end of the alleyway, and that would be a sign that you're at the end of the alleyway, don't continue walking. And you can walk, but you can't carry. The other thing is you can put a beam across the top of it. You can put a beam across the top, and that's also considered that is either considered like a wall, even though it's just a beam, or it's considered also like a siman that don't walk past it. Okay. So here, apparently the doorway is partially covered. The covering is towards the inside. So the Gemara says like this: Pesach Basuach, if the doorway's open, kilifnim, then you can use that covering to make you inside the house. Pesach Nal, but if the doorway is closed, then kalachutz, then it's like you're outside. Now I don't have exactly the explanation. Does anyone have any comment on that? How that's working? You have to unmute if you have any. Any drones have an explanation? Okay.
It could be anything like an overhang. So it depends.
So
overhang on the front or overhang on the inside.
So let's say. So if it's an overhang, so it's sticking out of the doorway, and covering over. So if the door is open, then somehow that makes you considered in the house. And if the doorway is closed, then it makes you outside the house. It's something along those lines.
I sent you a pic on the WhatsApp from the.
So let me see. Okay, the first picture here is the second teretz. That teretz is easier. That's going to be Rav Ashi's teretz coming up. Let me see what else. Okay. So this is that's under note 12. The door. Oh, it's the inner part of the threshold that has the curtain over it, and it's thus roofed. The door of the Mavi closes against the inner edges of the threshold in Kaira. Okay, though these beginnings of the fourth wall are present, they do not serve as a lachis. Oh, that means the doors probably. Perhaps because the entrance is wider than 10 tefachim. Okay, Rav Yud explains the name of Rav, that the Mavi is being, I can't read it so well, adjusted by a kaira, not by a lachi. In that case,
yeah, that's the overhang I was referring to. When you're walking in, there's an overhang on top of it.
I just want to know why, if he is in the doorway and the door's open, what makes him inside the house? Is he covered by the roof? If he's covered by the roof, then I could understand that. Thus, when the kaira is placed at the entranceway of the Mava, it will result in the threshold being roofed, partially not roofed.
I sent you a better picture.
Okay, let me check. 1 second. Okay. Yeah, okay. I understand what it's saying. I just have a question. Why if the doorway is open, is he considered inside the house? There's a kaira. If the kaira would cover the whole thing, that would be easier for me to understand.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
It seems from that picture that the fourth wall, actually like a sukkah, has part of a wall from each side coming in. You know, like it comes in a little bit before the, if you look closely at the picture. So maybe that makes it just like in the sukkah, a house. Or a
1 second. Let me see if that's the pshat. I don't know. Rashi is not saying that there's like a lip on the wall. Okay, I don't know the answer. I'm not sure. Let's do the second. The next teretz is much easier for me. Rav Ashi Amar La'ilam Baskufas Bayas Askina. No, we're not dealing with the mavi. We're dealing with a house. Okay. Ukugain Shakira b'shtei kairas she'en bezu arba ve'en bezu arba. So, like the picture that you posted, that there's two roofs. There's two coverings that are covering over the entranceway. Now, the problem is that those two, neither of them have 4 tfachim, and they're within 3 tfachim of each other. So really, we could do a lavud and attach them. The only thing is, but the doorway is in the center. So Pesach Pasuach Kilifnim. If the doorway is open, then we'll attach the 2 roofs to make them the size of 4 tfachim. That will be a rishus, and then therefore you'll be considered like inside. But Pesach Nal, if the doorway is closed, then we can't combine those 2 roofs because the doorway interrupts it. So then we'll say that it's kilachotz. Then we'll say that you don't have a 4 tfachim roof above you, so therefore you're considered outside. What this has to do with, why does the roof have to be 4 tfachim? It has to do with there's these halacha l'maisha misinais that you can use roofs or edges of roofs to be considered like to make a halachic wall that comes down if it's the right size, and you can do that. So over here, you don't have the right size unless the door is opened. Right, because the closed doorway changes the area that's under the roof and won't allow the lavud to take place to make it the right size. Okay, yeah. They call it in the note here he calls it Pitikra Yerd V'Seisim. Rashi mentions that also. Pitikra Yerd V'Seisim. That Pitikra Yerd V'Seisim means the edge of the roof can close off the side. This would be like, let's say you're in the park. They have an area like a picnic area. So sometimes there's just posts around the side, but you're under a roof. So some children's parks also they have for the sun. So that would be a little bit different. But this concept, if you could apply this concept of pitik or yerd v'seisim, you'd be allowed to carry under that because you're covered by a roof, and the thickness of the roof it really needs to be a tefach. If you have a tefach thick, you can say pitik, or the edge of the roof, yerd v'seisim goes down. Okay, and that would close it off. So okay, we're up to the next piece. If the threshold is 10 tfachim tall and 4 tfachim wide, then harizu rishus latzma. Then that's considered a problem, and you can't carry into the house. Even though, what's going to happen if it's 10 tfachim tall? It's a rishus hayachid if it's 4 tfachim wide. So what's the problem? Look at what it says. Messiah Leiler of Yitzchak bar of Dimi. This is a proof to Rabbi Yitzchak bar of Dimi. Dam Rabbi Yitzchak bar of Dimi. Omer haya Reb Meir. Reb Meir would say, Kol makam shatam eitz bezer shuyis vehin rishus achas gainamed b'shus hayachid kva yod v'rachav daled. Any place where you have 2 domains, but they're the same type, means 2 rishus hayachid. So, for example, you're in a rishus hayachid, you're in a private domain, and Yitzi, you're distracting me. It's funny. You, you have you have a post in the Rosh Hashanah that's 10 tfachim tall and 4 tfachim wide. You can't put something onto that post. So this is amazing. The only way to explain this where it's logical, basically what it's saying is you can't put something on your table in your house, because the rest of your area is Rosh Hashanah, and the table has its own Rosh Hashanah. This must mean we're talking about 2 people own each property. Then, what's the problem with this? If you're walking in Rosh Hashanah and you have, let's say, whatever, your hat, your whatever, which you were allowed to have there, you were wearing it, and you decide, let me take it off, and I'm just going to put it on this post for a minute to adjust something. What you've just done is you've taken from Rosh Hashanah and put it into Rosh Hashanah, even though it's in the middle of the street. But because it's 10 tefachim tall, 4 tefachim wide, that's a significant Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, because there's a problem of putting something on a post in Rosh Hashanah, you can't do it in Rosh Hashanah either. And now that would only be if it belongs to someone else, even though that's not said over here, but that must be the pshat. Okay. The Mishnah says, let's start this Mishnah here on the top. Loi yeshiv adam lefnei hasapar samach lemincha ad sheyispalal. A person before mincha, we'll see exactly what time that is, should not go to a barber until he davens. Going to see that there's an issue. He might get carried away. He might get delayed. He's going to miss mincha. Lo yikanas adam lemerchatz. A person shouldn't go into a bathhouse. A bathhouse was more than just a bath in those days. V'lo laborsiki, shouldn't go into his tannery. They work the leather. V'lo la'achal, he shouldn't have a meal. V'lo ladin, and also for judgment. Welcome, Professor. You hear us? And if you did start, Professor, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Good morning. Just mute your phone until you want to say something. Okay, that way we don't hear background. Okay. Good morning, Jonathan. Okay. The Meschilo, and if he does start, we're on 9b right now. If he does start, ein mafsikin, then he doesn't have to stop. So there were things that he wasn't supposed to do, but if he does start in a illegal way, in the illegal time, then he doesn't have to stop for mincha. He can continue. Mafsikin l'kriya shema ve'in mafsikin l'tefillah. You only stop to recite the Shema. Why is that? Because the Shema is deraisa, but for tefillah you don't have to stop. Okay, now the Gemara asks, Hey samach lemincha. When you said that you're doing something that's around mincha time, what are you referring to that it's around mincha time? Which mincha? So what we do is like this. We take the day, which is 12 hours. I shouldn't really say 12 hours. I should say 12 segments. Because you divide the day into 12, no matter how many minutes there are in the day, and no matter how many hours there are in the day. Divide into 12 segments. Then after 6 segments, after full complete 6, the 7th one, the beginning of the 7th one, that would be chatzais. And then, so that's a full 6 hours. Then mincha time would be 1 half hour after that. So 6 plus a half hour, that would be samach lemincha. Mincha gedela. If we're talking about that you have 5.5 hours left to the day, why are you not allowed to take a haircut? You have the whole rest of the day to daven mincha. Ella, rather, samach lemincha ketana. Talking about not mincha gedela, but mincha ketana. Now, mincha ketana is 9.5 hours into the day. So you have only 2.5 hours left of the day. I don't know how long mincha takes, but okay. So samach mincha ketana. You have you don't have that much time, so therefore don't go into a barber or to eat a meal or a bathhouse or a tannery. Imischilu, the Gemara asks, "Ein mafsikin." You don't have to stop. If you started at that time and you weren't allowed to, you have 2.5 hours left of the day. Name it tevitiv to the Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Let's say that this is a very strong question on a statement of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Dam Rabbi Shua ben Levi, kiven shigiyas man tfilas mincha, asladam shitam klum kedim shiyispal tfilas mincha. Once the time for mincha comes, you're not allowed to take a taste. So, and he's talking about mincha ketana. So what are you saying, that you're allowed to continue your meal? How are you allowed to continue your meal? You're not allowed to taste anything once it's mincha ketana. The Gemara answers, loy. You didn't have to answer the question like that. You answer it like this. Really, we're talking about that you have 6.5 hours left of the day. You really have a lot of time. I'm sorry, you have 5.5 hours left of the day. It's 6.5 hours into the day. You have a lot of time. And nevertheless, you're still not allowed to do it. Why? Ubetispirus ben Elasa. I don't know the pronunciation of that word. It's the type of haircut of this fellow, Ben Elasa, that he takes a haircut where every blade of every strand of hair, every hair, has to be exactly the size that it reaches the next follicle. So each one was cut perfectly. They didn't have a machine back then, so they had to do this by hand. And so each one was cut exactly to the right size, and that could take a long time. I think there are some people that they have to the dreadlocks. It takes them like hours. They sit over there schmoozing to get that the hair done. So such a type of haircut that you can't do samach lemincha g'dayla. So what is? I'm sorry, I skipped something. You can't go into the bathhouse. What's the problem? You take a shower. You have 5.5 hours left. That says no. L'kula milsa de merchatz. You're not just going to take a shower or a bath. You're going for the whole schwitz that they do over there in the bathhouse. And they go from the hot water to the cold water, and they steam up and all of that. So that's a big job. So that you could get carried away. That you can't do. V'loy lebursaki, and not to the tannery. You can't go into. It's talking about lebursaki gedayla. That's talking about the big tannery, which means that there's a lot of leather, and you're going to get started on the whole job of tanning the leather, and you might get carried away for 5.5 hours and miss mincha. V'loy lechol. V'loy lechol. Not to eat. What's the problem? You have 5.5 hours. No, besuda g'dayla. So we're talking about a large meal. So like a wedding type meal. That's an issue. Okay. V'loy din, and not to judgment. That's betchilas din. That's the beginning of judgment. Means to start the case that you can't do after mincha. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar. Rav Acha bar Yaakov says loylam b'tispeiros. Didan. We're actually dealing with a regular haircut. So the Gemara says, L'chatchila mayla yeshiv. What's the problem? 5.5 hours is more than enough time for a haircut. The Gemara says, Gzeir shemi yishaber azug. We have a problem. If the scissors breaks, you'll be stuck over there with half a head of hair. You're going to take the time to fix it and all of that. You're not going to walk outside. You're going to get very involved in that. You're going to forget to daven. V'loy lemerchatz. And even for the bathhouse, lazia ba'alma. What's the problem? You're just going into just a small activity there. Here it says the Gemara says just to sweat. What's the problem? It says Gzeir shemi yisalfa. It's possible a person could faint from the heat, and he won't end up davening mincha. Doesn't sound like there's a health concern there. They're just like concerned about mincha. V'lei lebursaki, What's the problem of a tannery? Liyuni be'alma lechatchila ma'iloi. He's just going in to look. What's the problem? He's not going to start the whole process. So Gemara says, "Dil machazi pseida b'zevnine umachet." It's possible that he may see something that's getting ruined, and he's going to want to fix it. So that is, oh, just another this. Oh, look what's happening, and he's going to get distracted, and he won't daven mincha. If we're dealing with a suda katana, what's the problem? Dilma asilam shuche. You may get carried away. Even with a suda katana, you bring another course. V'leila din, b'gmar din lechatchila mailai. If it's the Gemar din, ADD. If it's the Gemar din, the Gemar din means the end of the judgment. What's the problem? They're just going to pass the verdict and then they're going to be done. So the Gemara says that's the problem with that is Dil machasi taima v'sasadina. Maybe he's going to see that everything that they did was wrong, and they're going to have to start it over. So that's a concern that's going to distract you for all of that time. Now, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, that's saying this answer, is still talking about Mincha G'dayla. Okay, now the Gemara says like this. It says that you're allowed to continue once you started, but what is considered started? When they put the cloth on his knees, there's a cloth that he would put on his knees to keep the hair off him, probably. When is the beginning of the bathhouse? When he takes his apron off his shoulders, when he begins to take his clothing off. That's the beginning of the bathhouse. What's the beginning of a borsaki, of a tannery? That it says he's allowed to continue. When he ties something, I guess some sort of apron, on his between his shoulders. When is the beginning of a meal? Rav says when he washes his hands. Rav Chanina says when he opens his belt. The Gemara says v'lei pligi halan v'halahu. It depends. Let's see how this is. Bnei Bavel, Rashi says they would tie their belts very tight. So when they would want to eat, they would have to open their belt. So, but Bnei Eretz Yisrael, they wouldn't do that. So, how do you know when the meal starts in Eretz Yisrael? Meal starts from washing the hands.